With the end of the 1960s and the first man on the moon, a new turbulent era began. The 1970s were a memorable decade because of significant events ranging from a major American political scandal to the breakup of the Beatles. You'll be amazed by these memorable 1970s moments, whether you lived through them or are just a history buff, most of which made national or even world history. Prepare your time machine for an exciting history refresh. Here are the top 15 most memorable 1970s events. Number 1. The Beatles Break Up. Even though they started to break up in the late 1960s, it wasn't until April 10, 1970, that Paul McCartney told the public that he was leaving the Beatles for good. They broke up for many different reasons. Rather, a number of factors contributed to their split, with creative differences and the intrusion of Yoko Ono being cited as the primary reasons. Number 2. Apollo 13. On April 11, 1970, Apollo 13 launched, making it third mission in the Apollo space program aiming to land on the moon. But 2 days after launch, an oxygen tank on board the spacecraft exploded, forcing the lunar landing to be aborted. In order to save their own lives, the crew was compelled to perform improvised repairs to the vessel's carbon dioxide removal system. On April 17, 6 days after launch, they descended to the planet's surface. Number 3. Disney World opens. Despite the fact that Walt Disney passed away in 1966, construction on the theme park had already begun years earlier. In October of 1971, Walt Disney World Resort in Orlando, Florida, became the world's first ever theme park resort to open. At that time, the cost of admission was $3.50 for each individual patron. Tickets for today's show cost more than $100 for anyone over the age of 10. Number 4. Richard Nixon visits China. In February of 1972, then-President Richard Nixon made a trip to China, which was a significant step toward establishing peace relations between the United States and China. He was the first president of the United States to take this step. This was the first step in establishing a long-term relationship between the two countries, and it was successful. Number 5. Keep abortion legal. In 1973, the Supreme Court case Roe v. Wade led to a major change in the law in the United States, making it easier for women to have children. The court justices decided, by a vote of 7-2, that the government did not have the power to stop abortions. In other words, the case in court made abortion legal in the U.S. The court's decision came from the fact that the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution protects the freedom of personal choice in family matters, which includes the right to end a pregnancy. Number 6. American energy crisis. In October of 1973, members of OPEC imposed an oil embargo. This resulted in a sharp increase in gas prices and eventual fuel shortages. Traffic was backed up as people tried to reach the town's gas stations, blocking entire city blocks. After the Iranian Revolution, oil production dropped, which led to another oil crisis in 1979. Number 7. Richard Nixon resigns, the Watergate Scandal. Watergate, the most infamous political scandal in United States history, was ended with Richard Nixon's resignation. The incident that sparked the scandal took place in 1972 when someone broke into the headquarters of the Democratic National Committee, which were in the Watergate complex. The FBI and 2 reporters from the Washington Post were able to link the 5 men who were arrested in the burglary to Nixon through their investigation. In 1974, 2 years after the scandal broke, Nixon would finally step down because of it. Number 8. United States 200th Anniversary. The United States of America held celebrations in 1976 to mark the 200th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. The 4th of July in New York Harbor hosted one of the most impressive fireworks displays of any of the celebrations that took place throughout the year and across the country. A spectacular fireworks show was held that night, and the Statue of Liberty was illuminated so that people in the crowd could see it. Number 9. Jimmy Carter is elected. Jimmy Carter became the 39th President of the United States of America after being elected in November of 1976. On the second day of his administration, he pardoned to all individuals who had evaded service in the Vietnam War draft. During his presidency, he was responsible for establishing both the Department of Energy and the Department of Education. He is also the only president to have previously worked as a peanut farmer. Number 10. United States withdraws from Vietnam. After years of protest, the United States withdrew from the Vietnam War. The last U.S. troops left South Vietnam in 1973, just 2 months after the signing of the peace treaty that ended the Vietnam War. America's 8-year involvement in the conflict, which remains the most unpopular foreign war in U.S. history, finally ended. Number 11. Apple starts something big. The Apple II, which debuted in 1977, was the first commercially successful home computer. Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs founded Apple Computers the previous year. At the time, nobody knew how this company would affect technology, but the introduction of this computer would mark the beginning of Apple's rapid ascent. The innovation of this company, founded in the 1970s, is largely responsible for the technology of today. Number 12. New York power outage. Fear was a prevalent emotion for many people living in New York City during the summer of 1977. On top of that, there was a local financial crisis going on while Son of Sam was on his killing spree, and to add insult to injury, there was a power outage for 2 days. Looting became popular among the citizens during this social unrest, with many people engaging in it through the night and even into the day. When the power was finally brought back on, thousands of people had already been arrested. Number 13. The death of Elvis. Elvis Presley, also known as the King of Rock and Roll, passed away on August 16, 1977. He was already regarded as a legend, and after his death, he was named one of the century's most influential cultural figures. The previous president of the United States, Jimmy Carter, stated that Elvis Presley had permanently changed the face of American popular culture. Graceland in Memphis, Tennessee, is now home to the burial site of Elvis Presley, which is in the meditation garden there. Number 14. Test Tube Baby. Dr. Robert Edwards and Patrick Steptoe are credited with pioneering the process of in vitro fertilization. On July 25, 1978, Louise Joy Brown, the world's first baby to be conceived via in vitro fertilization, IVF, was born at Oldham and District General Hospital in Manchester, England, to parents Leslie and Peter Brown. The baby girl, born via cesarean section just before midnight, weighed in at a healthy 5 pounds, 12 ounces. Edwards won the Nobel Prize in Medicine for his contribution in the development of in vitro fertilization. Number 15. The Walkman Arrives. The Walkman from Sony was first made available to consumers in July of 1979 at retail outlets. The release influenced consumers' music preferences by making it possible for them to listen on the move. We are used to having this luxury, but that's because the device in question has a big impact on our lives. Thank you for watching. Please make sure to subscribe, like and share the video. Leave a comment below to tell us what you think of this video. Until then, I'll see you in the next one.